In Russia, many archival documents are still classified because it is believed that their disclosure would harm state interests. This is understandable when it comes to events that happened even 70 years ago. Some participants in those events are still alive. But why are the archives from the time of the 1917 revolution still classified? Many documents related to the activities of the highest bodies of state power of the USSR from the 1930s to the 1980s, especially during the period of the Second World War, remain inaccessible to researchers. The NKVD archives related to the Great Terror of the 1930s are classified until the year 2044. So, at best, the truth about this tragic time will be revealed to the children of today's researchers. But that's not entirely accurate. The only reason why official Russia does not dare to declassify the archives is a profound fear. But not of the West, rather of its own people. After all, if Russians learn the whole truth, then Russia in its current form will obviously collapse. The declassified archives would simply destroy it. What is it in the Soviet past that could so discredit today's Russian state if it were brought to light? The Kremlin is unlikely to ever fully declassify the files from the period of the Soviet state's formation, namely on the organization and execution of mass Red Terror during the Civil War years, on the origins of the Bolshevik Party's funds during the revolution, on secret negotiations between Soviet leadership and Kaiser's Germany, the Entente, and Western financial circles, on the background of the Brest-Litovsk peace, and the role of certain individuals in its conclusion, on the cooperation between the Bolsheviks and Pan-Islamists in the revolutionary agitation of the East, on the use of military advisors from Germany and Austria-Hungary to create the Red Army, on the role of the hostage system in forcing specialists to work for Soviet power, on the total genocide of the bourgeoisie in Petrograd in 1918, on the suppression of popular uprisings in 1918 to 1921, and on the organization of the famine in the Volga region. The genocide of the Cossacks should be singled out in particular. The fate of certain national minorities also remains unclear. For example, historians still do not know for certain what happened to the nearly 500,000 Chinese who were in Russia after the Civil War. To this day, it is only through local archives and indirect publications that we can gauge the scale of popular resistance to collectivization and the measures taken to suppress it, which involved units of the regular Red Army, including combat aviation and chemical troops. The scale of military cooperation between the Red Army and the German Reichswehr from 1922 to 1935 has only been partially revealed. The extent of the sale abroad by the Soviet government of cultural valuables from private collections confiscated during the revolution and from the reserves of state museums also remains unknown. It is unlikely that Russia will ever disclose all the documents related to the origins of the mass famine in Ukraine and Kazakhstan, the regions most affected by collectivization. With regard to the period of the Second World War, the declassification of plans for an offensive war against Germany, concerning the division of the world into spheres of influence with respect to neighboring states, could clearly harm the state. Historians suspect that there is also a taboo on publishing the true data about the USSR's losses in the Second World War. Historians in Russia are denied access to notes, information, reports, telegrams, ciphered messages, and correspondence of Stalin and the Defense Commissariat he headed during the war years. It is also clear that if there really was an order from Stalin to evict all World War II invalids from major cities in a single day, any documents attesting to this will never be made public in Russia. If you are interested in the history of World War II, you can find a more detailed video about the classified documents from that period on our Patreon. Follow the link in the suggestion, in the description, or in the first comment. Let's continue. The stamp of secrecy will remain indelibly on all Soviet war plans against the USA after 1945, as well as on many documents related to the foreign policy of that period. The closer we get to our own time, the more these documents affect the interests of the ruling elites not only in Russia, but also in countries considered strategic partners of the Russian Federation in the Third World. The materials of the special services from this period have probably not lost their relevance even on a personal level to this day. The military plans of the late USSR may have undergone very few changes even now. It is unlikely that Russian citizens will ever learn the true scale of the gratuitous aid provided by the USSR, which remains classified in Russia, but may have been preserved in the archives of former Soviet republics, now independent states, and could be published by them. In addition, it is well known that, for example, the University of Toronto Library has a complete inventory of the Moscow Stalin Fund available to the public. The main thing is that the pages sealed in Moscow, those hidden under the label "secret," for some reason have come to life there, and anyone interested can access them. That is, in some cases, what is classified in the capital of Russia may very well be open for review in, say, the Library of Congress. However, unfortunately, this only applies to a portion of the materials. The main body of important secret archives remains locked away behind 7 seals. However, Russia's policies are not eternal. Many viewers have lived through events that testify to this, and some have even participated in them. Only certain archival documents will never be declassified for sure. These are the documents that were destroyed without a trace. According to many accounts, the secret commission of the CPSU Central Committee for Investigating Unlawful Repressions, created by Nikita Khrushchev after the 20th Congress, destroyed quite a few documents on his orders. Documents that reflected Khrushchev's personal role in organizing these repressions. If no copies of these documents have survived, it is clear that much about Stalin's Great Terror will never be known to humanity. It is also written that, at the end of Stalin's life, all personal records of military conscripts created before and during World War II were destroyed. This was done to conceal the true number of human losses in the war. Older people remember how, even right before the collapse of the USSR, when Glasnost was in full swing, Gorbachev stubbornly denied the existence of secret protocols to the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact and documents about the Katyn massacre. But they were in the archives, and Gorbachev was well aware of their existence and kept silent. There's nothing surprising about this, since he was the General Secretary and then the President of the USSR. All his legitimacy was based on denying the crimes of the illegitimate Bolshevik regime. The current authorities don't want to open the archives for the same reason. The truth is inconvenient for them. The truth about the alliance between the USSR and the Third Reich, about the assault on the Brest Fortress, about the Soviet Nazi parade, and about many, many other things that form the foundation of the modern ideology of the Russian Federation. If all the archives are opened, there will be nothing left of the victory mania. It will turn out that Stalin was actually an even greater fascist than Hitler and Mussolini, and Lenin was like Jack the Ripper on the scale of an entire state. Moreover, if today's archival materials are declassified, it will turn out that the junta and neo-Nazis are not in Kiev, but right in the center of Moscow, and that Russian plans to seize the left bank of Ukraine have been around for more than 20 years. There is no other country in the world like this one, built on total shameless lies, through which any monstrous cruelty and vile treachery are justified. Russia's most closely guarded secret is its true history. If the aforementioned archives were opened, there would be nothing left of Russia,